It's been a good life from 1 to 29. I grew up in a great home with great parents, a great brother, and the support of great grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. I made it through K through 12 and college and have managed to keep it all together since then, living with and working with great people all along the way. But through it all, I've had the same questions that many people at my age and younger have had. Who am I? Who am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do? Over the recent years, I've come pretty close, I think, to figuring out the big pieces, and every day seems to shed light on a few more little ones. But as I began to emerge from the fog of this classic 20-something's journey, I looked up and saw that I was fast approaching an end. Not the end, but an end. 30. The end of my 20s, and for all intents and purposes, the end of my youth. What does it mean to end my youth? I confess, I've struggled with that one quite a bit. I haven't been ready for full and complete adulthood. Even though 18 marks the cultural dawn of majority, the 20s seem to serve as a last chance to straddle that middle space between that which affords you the freedom and flexibility of youth and that which imposes the burden and gravity of adulthood. It's a time to think narrowly, walk whimsically, be foolish, live cavalierly, and be young in a way that you never will again, and here I see the end. But from this reality came the hope of day, and the realization that while this is the end of the first chapter of my life, it is the beginning of the second and most important chapter. I spent 1 through 30 wondering who I am, what I should do, and how I should do it. I searched long and hard to find these answers, these truths that have come to represent 30 years of thought, preparation, and effort. Now chapter 2 begins, the chapter of doing, the chapter of accomplishing, the chapter of fulfilling. Your 30s, 40s, and 50s are a time when careers, empires, and legacies are built. They are the time you rise above the foundation of your teens and 20s, when you hope and believe that everything you've been building is in place and will serve you well. It's the age when you can choose to settle down and spend the next 30, 40, or 50 years fading into mediocrity, or the age when you can make the decisions of a lifetime and jump and hope to God that you fly. Where before I'd been focusing on the demise of my 20s, the demise of my youth, the demise of a beautiful, rich, vibrant phase of entry, I now look forward and up to a life of impact, fulfillment, and accomplishment of that which I set out to do. In my teens, I gazed at the stars. In my 20s, I reached for the stars. In my 30s, I will touch the stars and embrace the life and purpose that has been set aside for me. For my 30th birthday, I decided I wanted to do something extraordinary, something to mark the significance of everything I've mentioned up to this point. Several ideas went through my head, but I landed on a trip to Mexico, specifically Mexico City, an entirely different environment with an entirely different language and culture. When I woke up on August 17th, 2014, I wanted to remember what 30 looked like, what it smelled like, what it felt like, what it tasted like, what it sounded like. I wanted 30 to be a catalyst for everything that I know I'm supposed to be, and I didn't want it to languish in the mundanity of my daily routine. So off I went. I cherished the 5 amazing days I spent there, the people I saw there, the people I met, laughed with, talked with, like Greg and Chantel, Ernie, Alma, Josue, David. I even managed to find some of my people, Viva la Música. And of course I can't forget my Mexican novias. Then there were the sights that I saw. I didn't go to Mexico City for fun in the sun. I didn't go to Viva la Vida Loca. That's why the pictures I'm showing you aren't of beaches or parties. They are of things that were meaningful to me for different reasons. I went to submerge myself in culture shock and kick off chapter 2 in a totally different context. I wanted to shock myself into a stark consciousness about what chapter 2 would be about. Completely alone in a foreign country, in the 5th largest city in the world, with a foreign tongue and foreign customs, maybe you'd wonder, can you just do that? Is it risky? Is it safe? And that's what this whole trip is about. Yes, I can just do that. Yes, it's risky. Nothing worthwhile is without risk. And kind of, it's safe. Okay, maybe not quite as safe as walking around Orange County, but let's be real, people, I did do some verification. I am in the middle of a Mexican rainstorm. I have been running for my life for hours. Well,
like 20 minutes, but it feels like hours when it's this rainy. This is insane.
August in Mexico City is often gray and rainy, bleak and hazy. The sky is a little bit hazy. The atmosphere is a little bit hazy. Maybe my reasons for going are a little bit hazy. Maybe I'm just a little bit crazy. But onward and upward, I intend to make the most of 30, 40, and 50 if the Lord wills it. And when I start the last chapter at around age 60, I want to look back on these days and know that this was the beginning of my legacy. On this journey to self-discovery, I've done many things to try and create a foundation. After high school, I completed my bachelor's degree in music theory and composition and commercial music, and my master's degree in a music composition and conducting hybrid program. After that, I founded a publishing company. I published 10 works for Wind Band with a dozen more in the works. I visited 50 high school and middle school bands around the country that were playing my compositions. I wrote, performed, and produced and released an album. I scored films. I've been filmed. I even did a couple stand-up comedy spots just to be completely random. Only God knows for sure where my path will lead, but wherever it does, life will happen every day and all around me, and I will never be able to control it. It may hold things wonderful or tragic that I could never imagine. The only thing I can control is how I respond to it. 30 is here, ready or not. The decade of ignition, the decade of action, the decade of boldness, the decade of flight. And I intend fully to respond.